Exposing, refuting, and correcting false teaching. This is Point of Defense Reacts with John Crawford. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and donate. And now, here's John Crawford.
Welcome back. Been away for a little bit, but I have returned to the podcast today, and I'm going to be doing an audio podcast today. And I want to continue with my series, Things Charismatics Can't Do. And before I do that, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so, like and share. All right, so today's topic, Things Charismatics Can't Do. Heal the sick. One of the most common claims in modern charismatic circles today, as it has been for many, many years, and it's ongoing, is that believers today possess the same healing gift that the apostles exercised and that Jesus exercised. There's a problem with that. The evidence does not match that claim. When Jesus Christ healed people, people were healed instantly, completely, publicly, without failure, no waiting, no return symptoms, no repeated attempts, without healing lines, without background music, and without naming and claiming it by faith. The blind saw, the lame walked, the deaf heard, the dead were raised every single time. The apostles demonstrated this same kind of miraculous authority as Jesus did. For example, in Acts chapter 3, Peter healed a man that was lame from birth. The Apostle Paul healed cripples, the sick, and even raised the dead, Acts chapter 20. There were no such things as partial healings. There were no excuses. There were no failures blamed on the patient's lack of faith. Because today, if you hear charismatics say that a person wasn't healed, oh, it was their lack of faith. What about the charismatics' faith? Apparently, they have enough faith to believe they can do it. So actually, the ball's in their court. But they want to blame the person if they don't get healed. You see, they can't do it because they don't have the gift. It's just much easier to pass it off with a nonsensical argument like saying, well, this person didn't have enough faith, so this is why they didn't get healed. Just complete and utter nonsense. Total rubbish. Total BS. Yet modern faith healers routinely fail to produce the same apostolic results and the same results as Jesus did. Why? Because they can't do it. And claiming apostolic power and possessing apostolic power are not the same thing. They can claim it, but they don't have it. They can name it and claim it, but they don't have it. There's also exegetical fallacies in this teaching that Jesus wants everyone healed. That confuses description with prescription. Descriptive passages describe simply what Jesus and the apostles did. Prescriptive passage would be that it's prescribed for us today like it was for them. Well, it's not. Those are descriptive passages. Every time you see Jesus or the apostles healing, that was simply describing what they did, what they had the ability to do, not prescriptive for us today. For example, the whole book of Acts is full of what the apostles did. It was all descriptive, not prescriptive. It does not actually command every Christian to do the same exact thing. This would be prescriptive. It clearly is not. That's a hermeneutical error. Number two, the charismatics equate spiritual gifts with universal ability. Even in the first century, not every believer possessed gifts of healing. 1 Corinthians 12, 29 through 30 state that. The Apostle Paul specifically asks, are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? Well, the obvious answer is no, they didn't. Number three, charismatics ignore the decline of miraculous healings in the New Testament. Read Acts, or 2 Timothy, 4:20. The Apostle Paul left Trophimus sick. Was it because he didn't have enough faith? Was it because he didn't make the healing line in time? Was it because God couldn't do it? He was left sick. Timothy had ongoing stomach problems, 1 Timothy 5:23. Did he have a lack of faith? No, I'd say his faith was strong. I'd say Trophimus, his faith was strong. How about Epaphroditus? He nearly died. Read Philippians 2:25 through 27. Did he just not have enough faith? Was he weak and didn't trust God, that God could heal him if it was God's will to heal him? Well, that's not true. But if apostles could simply heal everyone at will every time, why were these situations unresolved? Explain that. The real test is this. If someone claims apostolic healing power, the biblical standard is simple. Okay, go heal a blind person. Let's see you restore a severed limb. Let's see you go to the graveyard and raise the dead. I'm still waiting on that one. Heal someone with a documented terminal disease instantly and publicly where everyone can see it out in the open. And with all the technology like it is today on YouTube and, all these cell phones with video cameras on them and even the news media the way it is today, and we don't see any proofs at all because it doesn't happen. Not that God can't do it. It's just these charismatics can't do it because they don't have the gift like the apostles did. You see, the apostles didn't need medical records that were hidden from public view. Their miracles were undeniable. But today's modern pattern with the charismatics, let's see. How does it hold up? The sick remain sick. Hospitals remain full. Healing conferences continue. Excuses multiply. And when the healing doesn't happen, the blame often gets shifted to the victim. You see, the apostles never had that excuse of, well, oops, you didn't have enough faith. So let's test it a little further. I mentioned about the hospital. Now, charismatics, when I brought up this argument before about why don't you go clear out the hospital, they always come back with, well, Jesus didn't even heal everybody in his day. Well, he healed everybody that was brought to him. He healed everybody that he went to, and it was his sovereign will to heal. And secondly, okay, if you want to reverse that argument, let's just see you heal one person then. Just reverse the argument against them. They say, well, Jesus didn't heal everybody. Okay, then let's see you go to the hospital and heal one person with documented, verified evidence, charismatic. Let's see that. When I see that, then we'll talk a little further. But you can't do it because it's not happening today like it did with the apostles and Jesus. So there's a hospital test. And I'll give these in forms of syllogisms. I'll start off with a major premise, go to a minor premise, and it will follow with a conclusion. The hospital test. If someone possesses the biblical gift of healing, they can heal the sick at will as Jesus and the apostles did. Well, modern faith healers cannot walk into hospitals and heal the sick at will. Therefore, modern faith healers do not possess the biblical gift of healing. And there's the number 2 test. Biblical healings were complete. Biblical healings were immediate, complete, and undeniable. Modern charismatic healings are often partial, temporary, unverifiable, or fail altogether. Therefore, modern charismatic healings are not equivalent to biblical healings. They're just not. Then there's the apostolic standard. Anyone claiming the same gift as the apostles should also demonstrate the same results as the apostles. Modern charismatic healers do not produce the same results as the apostles. Therefore, modern charismatic healers do not possess the gift of healing as the apostles did. And number 4, there's the graveyard test or the raising the dead test. The biblical gift of healing included raising the dead, Acts 9:40, Acts 20, 9 through 12. Modern charismatic healers do not raise the dead. Therefore, modern charismatic healers do not possess the biblical gift of healing. Here's some questions for modern day charismatics. If you, charismatic, have the same healing gift as the apostles, why don't you get the same results every time or even one time? You don't because you can't. Why do modern healers target crowds instead of children's hospitals, cancer wards, or morgues? I'd like to see a charismatic going into those areas with a camera and the lights, and let's see you do it. Work your magic, so to speak. Well, you don't have it. That's the whole point. And can any charismatic show one verified case of a modern healer that restores a severed limb? I've yet to see one. Why did Paul leave Trophimus sick if healing was always available and it was God's will to heal every time, even back when the apostles were healing? If healing is guaranteed in the atonement right now, why do faithful believers still die? Why do modern healing ministries look so different from the miracles recorded in Scripture? The issue isn't whether God can heal. He does. He can. I've seen it happen. He has all the power. He's all-knowing. He's ever-present. He's sovereign. God can heal and answer to prayer. Certainly he does. So I'm not making the case that God can't. And I'm not going to tell God what he can and can't do. But I'm going to tell the charismatic they can't, because that gift is no longer available like it was with the apostles in the early church. So the issue is whether modern charismatic healers possess apostolic healing powers. They don't. If they do, show me the evidence, the results. Show me the verse. Show me the proof or proofs. There are none, because it's another thing that charismatics simply can't do: heal the sick. Now, this is something really fascinating and interesting from Charismatic Andrew Womack's website. This is a little paragraph he has posted on his website. Does God want you healed? He says, one of the biggest reasons why people struggle to believe in healing is not because they outright reject it. Most people want to be healed, but deep down they struggle to believe that it's God's will to heal every person every time. Why? I believe it's a defense mechanism, a way of coping when they don't see healing manifest immediately. I can tell you with certainty that anyone who has ever prayed for the sick has not seen every single person healed right away. Really? The apostles always did. That's not because it isn't God's will, but because we live in a world flooded with unbelief and wrong thinking. People have been taught doctrines that make them passive about healing, and they settle for sickness instead of standing on God's promises. Several problems with these arguments. And I may be repeating some of these, but I'm going to break this down and refute this paragraph here, his nonsensical arguments. He claims in this short paragraph, there's 6 false claims. His first claim, where he says most people struggle to believe that it's God's will to heal every person every time. Well, if it's God's will to heal every person every time, then why did Paul leave Trophimus sick in Miletus? 2 Timothy 4:20. Why did Timothy have ongoing stomach ailments? 1 Timothy 5:23. Why was Epaphroditus nearly dead from illness? Philippians 2:25 through 27. Scripture never says every believer will be physically healed in this age. That's a knockout punch to his nonsense. Claim number 2 he makes: people only question healing because they don't see it manifest. Well, people question healing every time because the Bible itself records faithful believers who remain sick, as I mentioned above. The issue isn't experience versus faith, it's experience versus Scripture. Scripture must govern doctrine and theology. False claim number 3 that Andrew Womack made: I can tell you with certainty. Oh, really? Well, the problem is that Andrew cannot tell us with certainty what Scripture does not explicitly teach. There is no verse stating God wills to heal every Christian every time physically in this life. Not one single verse. False claim number 4: not everyone is healed right away. Problem with that: biblical healings were immediate. The lame walked instantly. The blind saw instantly. The dead were raised instantly. Modern healers often redefine healing as something gradual because they cannot produce or reproduce biblical results. Claim number 5: that's not because it isn't God's will, but because we live in a world flooded with unbelief and wrong thinking. The problem with this argument: this is an unfalsifiable excuse. If someone is healed, the healer gets credit. If someone isn't healed, the sick person gets blamed for unbelief. Again, total nonsense and heresy. The New Testament never blamed Trophimus, Timothy, or Epaphroditus for lacking faith. False claim number 6: people have been taught doctrines that make them passive about healing. Problem with that: the apostles taught believers to endure suffering, weakness, persecution, and affliction, not to claim guaranteed physical healing. Paul glorified in his infirmity, 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10. Yet modern faith healers treat infirmity as evidence of deficient faith. Did Paul not have enough faith? Give me a break. So questions for modern-day charismatic faith healers. If healing is always God's will every time, in every case, in every sense, why didn't Paul heal Trophimus? If sickness is always caused by unbelief, was Timothy living in unbelief? If every believer can claim healing by faith, why did Paul prescribe medicine instead of commanding healing? 1 Timothy 5:23. Why are charismatic healers constantly explaining failures when Jesus and the apostles never had any? Andrew Womack's system ultimately protects itself by making healing unfalsifiable. If you're healed, the doctrine worked. If you're not healed, you lack faith. But Scripture records faithful believers, as we looked at, who remain sick, proving that physical healing is not guaranteed to every Christian in this present age. So you can see, this is another thing that charismatics can't do. Well, that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for listening and watching the video. Again, if you have not yet subscribed, liked, and shared, please do so. Join up and support the channel if you can financially. That'd be great. There's a link there for you to click on PayPal if you'd like to support us financially. Point of Defense Apologetics with John Crawford. Also, spread the word about Point of Defense. Hopefully, we're going to be growing a little bit more. I've gotten several new subscribers lately, and I really appreciate that. I don't always get a chance to get on here as often as I would like. I am in transition, changing jobs, and so I've been extremely busy with that and other things going on. But I try to get on here when I can and send out these great videos with excellent apologetic content for you. So thank you so much for watching. And again, I will see you on Point of Defense Apologetics with John Crawford. Thank you so much. God bless.
Exposing, refuting, and correcting false teaching. This has been Point of Defense Reacts with John Crawford. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. For questions, discussions, and debate challenges, email John Crawford Point of Defense at yahoo.com. See you on the next video.